So let's do it the formal
Yeah.
way, even though I'm not going to edit anything with you because I know we're going to get gold in between the actual serious questions. So, guy, normally I'll do an intro for you, Deeks. I do it with the top races of the world, you know. But
It's good.
is that because you actually think I'm going to ask you one question about your riding?
Probably. Yeah. Everyone knows it's not the riding.
You help people aspire to be better, be positive, and give something a crack that they probably wouldn't have unless they
Big
saw
time.
you. Since I think you do deserve an intro, let's give you a nice formal one. Well, I'm sitting here alongside virtually one of the most is sandbagging a word I should use? Let me try this again. I gotta get my words just right to give you the credit that's due, but also give a backhanded insult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So I'm sitting across virtually from one of the most decorated Masters athletes in the whole of the Midlands to Northern England. He's one of the biggest sandbaggers I have ever met, but also one of the most fun guys to have around. He actually inspires me, and we'll get to that. He's been to war. He's a Royal Marine. He's made it through Hell Week. Ben the Deakinator, Deakin. How do you like that? How are we doing?
Mate, do you know what makes me laugh is the fact that Andrew is introducing me on his show. That is so sick. Like genuinely, you've had Danny, you've had GM, you've had obviously Brent, all these guys, and it's like, I'll tell you what, let's just go down a peg or two. Let's just chat to Deeks and just bring it to reality a bit and see what we can do. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Well, if someone moans that their knee hurts, obviously in battle, you've got to think, well, you're not going to be just stood there moaning about your knee. You're going to be told to hurry the F off because otherwise you're a liability on everyone else. You could potentially get people killed. So it is that whole thing where you've just got to tone it down now and again. But everything you get in drilled in training, it's not a case of, oh, they're doing it for lols. They're doing it. This is serious stuff. You're in the war zone. This could honestly be a matter of life or death. That is why everything that you do in training is there to potentially save you later on in life, which seems absolutely crazy, but that's what it is.
Two things though. I mean, whether our listeners believe in war or not, it's happening, and you set yourself a goal to become one of the best, and you are the best if you can make it through that Hell Week, and then it sets you up from what I'm hearing is for later in life. Like, do you feel a lot of your attitude and work ethic and everything comes from what they beasted into you during Hell Week?
Mate, big time. I think the big one for me is cheerfulness in the face of adversity. And it's one of the Royal Marine mottos and prime example. And people are going to find this a bit strange, but thinking about where I've come from as far as we've all been embedded in this group of guys where one of the lads lost his leg on a landmine, and no word of a lie, when he got back to the UK, some of the guys phoned him and they sort of, Ben McBean, his name is, real famous sort of story. He's what started Help for Heroes of Prince Harry, which I'm sure you guys could look up. But Ben McBean basically stood on a landmine and he lost his arm and his leg. And basically one of the lads phoned him and he said, Ben, your flight home cost you a bit, doesn't it? And he's like, what are you on about? Obviously, the first thing you hear is when he gets off the operating theatre. And all the lads are like, well, you lost an arm and a leg, you idiot, didn't you? And everyone's like, your flight cost you an arm and leg. And literally, he was just crying down the phone with laughter because it's just a different way of thinking where, yes, it's serious, but things happen. You can't be too serious. Even though, yes, the job's serious, if you mentally just overthought everything, you're just being a wreck. It's the only way that you can deal with it. And you know, some of your listeners might know, and I hate everyone normally, this just sums my mate up. I received a little scratch to my ankle, and that was that I got shot in the ankle through a mate's leg. So basically we're all on the rooftop and all three of us got hit. And even then, after we got hit, we found ourselves sort of running back through cover. One of the guys carrying one of the stretchers then got shot in the backside. And it was like, literally felt like a Hollywood movie to some degree. But the buzz, you know, I could only imagine the buzz that someone gets from winning a world champs run is probably on par, if not similar, you know, where you end up just going, what on earth? You're in this moment where you can't do anything about it. And you're literally in survival mode where it's like, right, well, if people don't give cover and fire, then we're an open target. If we don't run, as fast as we physically can, then obviously we're going to get shot, potentially die. And then that was it. It was just like, well, let's hurry up to the helicopter. And when we got in the Chinook, literally everyone just looked at each other like, what on earth? And everyone's laughing. That's how, like, it's such a weird thing that I think a number of people won't understand unless you're there, because it's that whole near-death experience, but everyone survived. Not always remember there was a load of American army soldiers on the back of the Chinook, and they're like, "Hey man, you Marines are absolutely crazy, man." And there's me and my mate on laughing gas, literally just like, what on earth has just happened? There's a lad on the floor who's just been shot in the backside. We're like, Tricky, what are you doing getting shot in the backside? And it was just like so unreal that it was just like, it was all just quite funny, but not funny. If someone had a big crash on a mountain bike, it would almost seem more serious than someone being shot, because you're in such a weird world at that time. Now, I'm not condoning what happened, but it's, as I said, it all just happens very, very quickly, where you're just like, you feel like you're part of a movie set, and it's mentally scary. But I think it's sort of more daunting when you get back, you sit in a bed and you think, my God, that was real. But obviously at the time, it's all happening, your training instincts taken over. And as we said earlier, I think it all goes back to that week one, day one of training, why they're trying to get rid of all the crap out of training, as far as get rid of the weaker minded people. Because on that battlefield, if you've got someone that just freezes or, isn't physically strong enough to lift a casualty off the battlefield, they're essentially just dead weight to you. And it's crazy, but so true.
Well, so what about coming back from combat, and we know how crazy that is. What was that like, realizing that you weren't going to follow the route of the Royal Marines, like losing that part of you? Because maybe that is relatable to someone who changes jobs, or some of the athletes, even like me, deciding to retire. You kind of feel like you lose a part of yourself, your identity, and you were a Royal Marine. So there was not your whole identity, but there's a lot of identity in being a Royal Marine. What was that like mental battle like?
I think that one was probably, it's a scary experience, because let's say, for instance, as a downhill racer, you get to like early 30s, mid 30s, you're looking at these 17-year-olds absolutely pinning. You think, my God, I don't know, I've had a big crash and I don't know if I can compete with these guys anymore. So you naturally progress to go, right, well, I'm going to take a step back from racing and do whatever. In that instance, obviously, I was a Royal Marine, and all of a sudden you're being shot and someone's going, right, you can stay in this job, but I highly recommend that you don't do it, because you're going to get arthritis, or basically you're no good to us, essentially. And that's where it's that whole thing where you had no control. Obviously, yes, you had control of it. If you weren't skylined on a roof getting shot, you'd have full control of it. But what I mean is, someone's literally gone, yeah, I'll tell you what, you can't do that job anymore because of the way you are physically. Then it's just like, well, do you know what? I've got to look at the bright side. And as we said earlier, so many people suffer with the post-traumatic stress disorder. And a big one for a number of guys is they've wanted to be a Royal Marine, or they've wanted to be any, it's not just about the military here, but someone's wanted to do something. Let's say a professional footballer, exactly the same, professional mountain biker. You strive to be that person. And all of a sudden, you have a life-changing injury. And all of a sudden it's like, oh dear, I've put all my eggs in one basket. What am I going to do? And I think a big one with a number of this is how you bounce back to go, well, that's what I want to do next. And the biggest problem with a number of people, if you don't bounce back properly, that's where, unfortunately, mentally and physically, that's where you're going to have problems. But yeah, it's going quite deep, but that's the way it is.
Well, that's why you're on here. I think you can serve as some inspiration to people going through tough times, and you went through a tough time, and you used your mind to get through it, and you had to pivot, change careers, you lost that identity. So yeah, talk to us about taking the negative of being discharged medically. And you know what, I'm going to try to turn this into a positive. I don't know if I can, but what did that, yeah. I think it's
Well,
awesome what you've managed to create for yourself and how positive you are. And it can't always be positive. Let's maybe speak to a listener that it's not always as fun and easy as it looks for you out there post your career.
no. I mean, let's be honest, realize how mentally unstable I was. And what I mean by that is me and a couple of mates walking down the road and a bin lid hit the floor. And before you know it, I'm on the deck, literally just going, what on earth's happening? And it's all this stuff that people didn't see at the time. They're thinking, oh, Ben's like obviously on crutches. He seems to be coping well. He's just got back. But actually, mentally, I was an absolute wreck. And that isn't even like a strong story. You know, so many guys have had it a lot worse. So going back on topic as such, it's just that whole thing where just trying to switch it to think of things to make yourself do what you want to do. So in my case, it was, right, you're no longer a Royal Marine Commando. What can I do? What do I do to try and dig myself back to where I want to be? And the answer to that for me personally was have a year out. Let's just do all the things I wanted to do prior to the Marines. And then luckily I got super lucky, because in that year, that's what allowed me to go to Whistler, have a holiday of a lifetime. And that's what started what is my new job, you know. But I got super lucky, and not everyone's like that. But I think the big thing is just bouncing back. At the end of that 30 minutes, the thing you want to take away is just bounce back, whether that be injury, job, anything. Just find a way to try and get back stronger.